In my opinion, the iPhone 16e is actually the best iPhone. Let's talk about it. Before we get into this, I promise there's some more audio videos coming, but this is something that's kind of been in the main tech sphere right now, and I wanted to weigh in because I think my take might be a little bit different than some of the big ones circulating around. Now, I've got an array of phones sitting here on the table, all of which are phones that I have used. We've got the Pixel 8a, an iPhone 16e, the two new Nothing phones, 3A, 3A Pro, and then the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. Oh, look at all those fingerprints. That is a ton of fingerprints. This list of phones is from a variety of price points, but they're all necessary to illustrate a point. One of those points being that I'm more of an Android guy. I ran an iPhone for a really long time, but the last time I really liked an iPhone was the iPhone 11, and I got years out of that phone. Everything past that, I didn't really like them as much. I had a lot of problems with the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 15, not a big fan of the Dynamic Island, and I feel like iOS has just become a very bloated ecosystem. If you don't believe me, look at how many apps come pre-installed on iOS now. And I don't want any of these. These are all just extra random services and things that are, well, bloat. They're not necessarily the phone experience. In fact, one of the most minimal phones that I've actually gotten in recent years, crazy enough, was the Pixel 8a. It does have extra Google software features, things like call screening and whatnot, but this actually has been a pretty great phone. In fact, it's one I keep coming back to. I tried to switch to the Pixel 9 Pro Fold and went back to the Pixel 8a. It's just been a very solid, bug-free, clean experience. Great little device. But part of me has wanted that old iPhone experience I used to get from the iPhone 11. In many ways, this is delivering that. Now, how so? And I don't want to say this is the best phone you should buy. There's definitely a lot of other things to consider. In fact, I think both these Nothing phones are insanely good values, especially if you care about camera quality. But today we're talking about the 16e. First things first, and this one is solid just opinion. I'm not a fan of the Dynamic Island. Now, there are some actual on-paper reasons I think this is a better iPhone, but I just don't like the Dynamic Island. When I had the Dynamic Island on the iPhone 15, I had lots of bugs, lots of problems with it. It was always popping up at times I did not want it to, and as much as I don't prefer a notch either, I'd rather just have a hole punch, give me as much screen real estate as I can get. Between the two, the notch I find much preferable to the Dynamic Island and the bloat that comes with it. Now that's a personal opinion. Let's talk about something a bit more on paper, and this is what I'm sure you've heard multiple times. It's the C1 modem. Apple spent billions of dollars to develop their own in-house modem, acquiring departments from Intel, and spending years and years and years on this. This is the first phone that gets it, and at least to my understanding, this is a very power-efficient component. It takes a lot of juice in your phone to connect to radio towers, to connect to cell service, to use mobile data, and having your own in-house chip. I mean, Apple's shown in the past they're very good at efficiency when it comes to in-house processors, like their A series for phones or the M series for laptops. That's why year after year, Apple's gotten away with putting really comically small batteries in their iPhones. I mean, look at the 16 Pro. It's like 3,500 milliamp hours. That is a pathetic battery size, but they still managed to, at least for the most part, get through a day of use for a lot of people. That was a big turning point for me switching to Android, was around when 5,000 milliamp hour batteries became standard, because I just get more battery life out of most Android phones. These Nothing phones, these are easy 2-day long battery life phones for me. The Pixel 8a, easily a day and a half. Pixel 9 Pro Fold, horrible battery life. I do not get much out of that at all, and it's probably because of this giant screen and the fact that it does not have an adequately sized battery. But this also has a battery bigger than the 16 Pro. This is a roughly 4,000 milliamp hour battery. The iPhone 16 Pro is around 3,500. So we're getting a device with a power efficient processor, a more efficient modem, and a larger battery than one of the current Pro phone offerings. It still has Apple Intelligence, and it still has the remappable action button here, both things that I am not going to be using. And this is probably one of the more controversial ones, not having MagSafe and having a single camera. MagSafe, if only you could just get like a $20 phone case, pop it on there, and have MagSafe. That would totally solve that problem, wouldn't it? Now that that's sorted, single camera. I don't really care. I think cameras in phones have been completely adequate since like the iPhone 11. It's a camera. It's fine. If you care about photography quality, you're probably buying an Android phone anyway. iPhones, I think, have always had better video, but if you really care about like picture quality specifically, you're probably going to be buying either a Pixel, a Galaxy, or a Nothing phone, especially at this sort of price point. I don't think if photography quality is paramount, you're going to purchase an iOS device. Video quality, on the other hand, great on iPhones. I do think the video quality on the sensor is just excellent. I also think the photo quality is more than fine. It's plenty to capture moments. You don't have a telephoto, but like, do you need a telephoto? Maybe. If you do, you might be buying a more expensive phone. I don't. In fact, even on like the Pixel, I was fine with just a regular and an ultra wide, and I never used the ultra wide. And for me, when I am using a phone, it is very rare that I switch to anything other than just the main camera, which is why just having the main camera is completely fine for me. And this is a better sensor and a better image quality than we're getting on things like the iPhone 11. I would say better than on things like the iPhone 14, which was a great looking camera for just the average phone. The price is a bit of an interesting point because it is more expensive than the iPhone SEs ever were, but for what we're getting, we are getting a pretty minimal clean phone experience and the best battery life that I've ever seen from an iPhone. And that's big. I don't care if my phone is made of stainless steel. It's going to be heavier. I don't care if my phone has 3 cameras that I'm never going to use. I care about the battery life. How long my phone's going to last. I care about it not being massive in my hand, because if you want good battery life in an iPhone these days, you have to buy a phone that is the size of one of these Nothing phones. It has to be a pretty large device for you to get a remotely acceptable battery size in an iPhone now. And I personally don't love having a massive phone. I mean, this is already kind of on like the upper limit of the size of a phone that I would want to carry. I'll pop this back out of the case here. The phone grip's decent. I've never been a fan of super glossy backs, so I like that this is a matte texture. I mean, I'm going to keep it in a case anyway, but I think it looks good. I think it feels good. That battery life and that modem are massive, massive features for me, and that for me sets this apart from everything that Apple currently makes in their entire lineup. I'm also not a person who has ever needed a high refresh rate screen on a phone. It does add to the experience some, but I usually turn that off on a device because most of what I use my phone for is using it as a phone. I store music on there. I text people, I message people on Discord, Telegram, those sorts of things. I occasionally consume media like a podcast or a YouTube video, and I'll use it to capture some pictures in the moment. But I don't play games on my phone. I don't need the high refresh rate. In fact, I'm much happier just taking a regular OLED phone screen than using a high refresh rate feature. It's just not for me. And I recognize that I am not the use case of everyone who has an iPhone or a regular phone. Like, this is just a tool for me. It's not something that I'm going to sit on and doom scroll all day or spend all my time on social media or things like that. I want a phone that does phone things and will last for a prolonged battery life and do so effectively. I want everything to just work. And that's why the Pixel has been a good phone for me for a really long time. But it's also why, for the first time in a while, I actually think that an iOS device is worth considering. Now, is this the best value on the market? No, absolutely not. I think there's plenty of other things out there. I think that the Pixel A series and I think the Nothing phones are vastly superior in terms of just overall value proposition, because you do get every feature there that you might care about. The high refresh rate screen, a massive battery, a better camera system, more internal storage for the price. Whether or not you like a bigger screen is totally up to you. I kind of prefer a smaller screen, but the cameras on these phones are truly wild, especially just like the regular focal length main camera on here. Great quality photos. Now, there are more expensive phones that do outperform these, like the Pixel Pros, but that's like 2 to 3 times the price of these phones. So if we're talking overall value proposition, that's a bit of a tough one. There's not a super compelling iOS device, I feel like, if you're talking about value proposition. But as far as iPhones go, there is not an iPhone on the market that is more compelling to me than the 16E. I think this is actually a really great device. And for the time being, I have moved my number over to it, which is why I have it in a MagSafe case. I actually don't really use MagSafe for hardly anything. The only thing it's actually nice for is in my vehicle, and I don't even have my MagSafe mount in my vehicle right now. I've always been just a person to use low wattage wireless charging overnight. That's what I do with the Pixel. That's what I do with a lot of things. And I do like that in iOS now, you're able to set a bit more granular of a charging limit between 80 and 100% and 5% intervals. I like that. For a while on iPhones, especially on like the 15, you could just set it to limit charge to, I believe, 80% or charge full, and that was it. So I like that they're adding more granular controls to iOS for battery preservation, and in a phone with battery life as good as this one, I feel completely fine limiting the battery and still getting through the day very, very easily. The most I've managed to get this thing down to was around 40%. That was with only charging to 90% overnight and using it very, very heavily during the day. So that is wildly impressive to me, especially for a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. The efficiency of that chip is great. The efficiency of the modem is great. You would not get that sort of battery life out of a 4,000 milliamp hour battery in an Android device. I'd say it's about the same as what you would get in an Android device that is a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. So something like the new Nothing phones, or like some of the new Motorola's, or just other Android devices with a large battery. I hope that Apple starts putting more respectable battery sizes in their phones, because they already have some of the most efficient chips on the market. If they start doing that, that really is going to set them apart, more so in terms of battery life overall. And that is huge, especially given that, 2 or 3 years from now, when the battery of this thing degrades, because batteries do degrade, and they degrade at a considerable rate, it'll be nice to have a phone that is still usable without needing a battery replacement, still being able to get through a day of use when the battery is at, say, maybe 75% of its original capacity. Versus now, if you buy a Pro iPhone, if it's just getting you through the day, 2-3 years from now, that battery is not going to get you through the day. You're going to end up in situations like I was, where you just have to continuously charge the phone. It's like, oh, lunchtime, time to plug up my phone. Oh, I just got home from work, time to plug up my phone. And it would be a continuous process of having to have chargers around me at all times. And I don't like that. I want to be able to travel with my phone and take a day or two without having to charge it, or having to rely on, oh man, I don't want to use my GPS right now because my iPhone is going to die if I use my GPS, and then I will be lost somewhere in London. That's just a pain. And again, that's a big thing that has kept me on Android for a long time. That and local media storage, which is still 1,000 times better on Android, especially if you're a person who listens to music that you actually have files of. You're just way better off on Android. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This is, to me, the most compelling iPhone that Apple has made in a really long time, and I like it quite a bit. So, quick little ramble. I'm going to wrap this video up, guys. If you'd like to leave a like down below, comment, let me know what you want to see in the future. If you want to see me shave Joshua Valor's head on camera, you can check that out, the float plane, the link in the video description. As always, don't forget to stick around, subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Until next time. Peace.